Assalamualaikum and good day. Today we are going to present on our findings for project paper, which titled Genocide: An Overview from Legal and Human Rights Perspectives. We are from Group 13. My name is Nur Hanani binti Shukor, matric number 050132.
And my name is Wahidah Kamilah binti Razalli. My metric number is 050137, and we are supervised by Dr. Sharifah Nurida Aisyah binti Said Nur Muhammad. This will be our content for this video presentation. So for the introduction, the definition of genocide according to Merriam-Webster is the deliberate and systematic destruction of racial and political or cultural group. So we can understand that this crime is to the extent of extinction of certain group of people. So the person who coined the term genocide was a Polish lawyer named Raphael Lemkin. He was also one of the Jews that fled from the tyranny of the Nazis. The occurrence of genocide started in the early year of 1100, and United Nations unanimously agreed to criminalize genocide internationally in 1948. However, even with the adoption of the convention, numerous of genocides still occurred, such as Indonesian genocide in 1965, Cambodian mass killing in 1975, and of course our main focus of this research proposal, which is research project paper, is Rwandan mass killing in 1994. So this shows that the convention did not have much effect toward the mass of the violence. For the problem statement, the Genocide Convention was the first written law that the United Nations adopted in 1948. With the adoption of the convention, it manifests that this is a crucial step toward the development of international human rights and international criminal law. However, what we can see today is the opposite of the signification tried to be shown by the international community through the treaty. Thus, our purpose of this research is to examine how far Genocide Convention affecting the parties to the convention and other countries as a whole, and also to analyze the genocide from legal and human rights perspective.
So for the research objectives, we have 3 objectives that we aim to achieve in this project paper, which is the first one, to identify the history of genocide, when and how genocide emerged. Secondly, to analyze legal and human rights perspectives. So for this objective, we aim to scrutinize comparatively by focusing on the Genocide Convention, which is the main international instrument for the crime of genocide, and Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which is the main document for human rights. For the last one, our objective is to examine the effectiveness of Genocide Convention, which means that we aim to examine the extent of the effects of convention towards the parties to the convention and also other countries. The methodology, we have 3 techniques for our research, which is sources of data collection, which consists of primary data and secondary data. For primary data, it comprises of several legal documents that we focus on the Genocide Convention and UDHR, and decided case laws from International Court of Justice. For the secondary data, our sources consist of books, journals, academic theses, newspaper cuttings, and official websites. For the second technique, we use collection techniques by collecting data, by assessing database from library, journals, online sources, and books. For the last one, data analysis technique, we use graphical representation to summarize the data on the genocide tools after the Genocide Convention.
Our finding will answer our research objective. First will be the history of genocide. The term genocide was first coined by a Polish lawyer named Raphael Lemkin, and the word genocide originates from 2 words, which is geno, mean race or tribe, and cide means killing, that originate from Latin word. The history of genocide started with the event of the Holocaust, which means sacrifice by the fire. So the Nazis, which is a political party in Germany, play main role in the genocide from World War II. So this party, led by none other Adolf Hitler, which famous for his crime to kill Jews, the estimation of the death of the Holocaust during that time was about to 5 to 6 million. So as to why the Holocaust happened was because of the ideology of the Nazis that feel the Jews were inferior, and of course because of the religion itself. So we came to the conclusion that the term of genocide have retrospective effect to the genocide before the Holocaust, which is as an example, the Herero and Nama genocide occurred in 1904 until 1907. The Balkan War, which include the Muslim mass killing, occurred in 1912 until 1922. And lastly, the Armenian genocide, which occurred in the year of 1915. We also find the causes of the genocide is mainly because of economic crisis, second, political upheaval, third is war, and lastly, race, ethnic, and religion. The impact of genocide are from the economic state, next, redefining territory, refugees, and also physiological effect and trauma healing. So as to answer our next research objective, which is under legal framework of genocide, the Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide, which the name for the Convention of Genocide was in response of the crime of genocide and adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations on 9 December 1948. So the convention establishes the obligation, which stated under Article 1, to prevent and punish, and further stated under Article 4 that anyone commit genocide should be punished, whoever they are. So according to the United Nations, as January 2011, there were 44 United Nations member states that have not yet ratified the Genocide Convention from the total of 193 of United Nations member states. However, it is important to mention that the International Court of Justice (ICJ) repeatedly stated that the convention embodies principles that are part of general customary international law. Among those are the prohibition of genocide, as well as the obligation to prevent and punish genocide. And as customary in international law, such obligations are binding on all states, whether or not they have ratified the Genocide Convention. Thus, those 44 United Nations members that still have not ratified the convention still have the obligation to follow the convention.
For the human rights perspective, human rights is impartialities that everyone is entitled to and inherent in each human being. Pursuant to the genocide occurred during the World War II in 1930, Eleanor Roosevelt of the United Nations gathered from almost 50 member states of the United Nations to come up with necessary human rights for people universally. Then United Nations declared their main conventions, which are UDHR and Genocide Convention. There are two categories of right under UDHR. First one, economic, social, and cultural rights. For example, right to a family, right to health, right to education, and right to the benefits of culture. So, to safeguard these matters, International Covenants of Economic, Social, and Cultural Rights was adopted by the United Nations to further elaborate these rights. Next, another category of rights under UDHR is civil and political rights, which is to allow people to enjoy civil and political life without any oppression or discrimination. Then, International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights was adopted by the United Nations to ensure that the citizens would be able to enjoy these rights. So next, we're focusing on the position of the United Nations in genocide issue by having reference to UDHR. Since we narrowed down our project paper to focus more on genocide in Rwanda, now I want to explain about the peacekeeping troops in Rwanda, which is called as UNAMIR, that has been launched by the United Nations to monitor the peace process between the Hutu government and Rwanda's Patriotic Front, RPF, due to the civil war. But it became worse when the genocide started to occur, and the United Nations failed to stop the genocide, and eventually the UN left Rwanda when the genocide became more dreadful. During the genocide, many human rights were violated and abused. For example, it was estimated 500,000 women had been raped and sexually abused by the perpetrators. This shows that the UNAMIR had ignored the principles in the UDHR, which is to protect the citizens at all times, regardless either during the war and peace. Pursuant to the genocide in Rwanda, International Court Tribunal in Rwanda was established to further promote justice and human rights by prosecuting people who have violated international humanitarian law in the Rwanda and other neighboring states. Next, another mechanism by the United Nations in preventing the mass human rights violence is the establishment of Human Rights Council, with its main role to address violation of human rights and other mass atrocity crimes such as genocide.
Lastly, for our research objective is the effectiveness of Genocide Convention 1948. So the aftermath of the Genocide Convention can be considered as unsuccessful as there were and still happen until today the crime of genocide. So numerous of genocides still occurred, such as Indonesian genocide in 1969. 1965, Cambodian mass killing in 1975, Rwandan mass killing 1994, which will be the main focus of our research, Darfur genocide on 2003 and still ongoing, and of course Palestinian genocide, which include Muslim mass killing from 1948 and still ongoing until today. So since we narrowed down our research scope on the Rwandan genocide, thus I will explain on the Rwandan genocide itself. This genocide occurred on 6 April 1994 due to the political and also the ethnicity problem between the Hutus and Tutsis people. On the night of 6 April 1994, a plane carrying the President Juvenal Habyarimana and his counterpart of Burundi, which was both Hutus people, been shot down, killing everyone on board of the plane. So it was hard to determine who shot the plane. Some said the RPF, which is Rwandan Patriot Front, consists of Tutsis people. And some said it is the Hutus themselves that shot the plane just to create an excuse to spark the genocide to happen. So as a result from this, the Rwandan genocide caused about 800,000 people killed in 7 months. So justice, of course, was served on October 1994 by International Criminal Tribunal for Rwandan, located in Tanzania. So in 1995, the ICTR began finding and trying a number of higher-ranking people for their role in Rwandan genocide. So the process was made difficult because the whereabouts of many suspects were unknown, of course, because there were many people involved during that time. The trial continues over the next decade and a half, including the 2008 conviction of 3 former senior Rwandan defense and military officials for organizing the genocide. Nevertheless, we achieved the conclusion that the convention is considered as an unsuccessful because it failed to prevent the crime and to uphold the justice for those people that currently in the state of genocide. As per Article 1 of the Genocide Convention, where stated that the contracting parties confirm that genocide, whether committed in peace or time of war, is a crime under international law, which they undertake to prevent and to punish. And the most saddest part is their voice are being ignored when they should have been heard under Article 3 of Universal Declaration of Human Rights 1948, which stated clearly that everyone has the right to life, liberty, and of course, security of person.
Is to be concluded that since the Genocide Convention is not really effective to the parties of the convention and other countries, so we aim to analyze the history of the emergence of genocide, the extent of the effectiveness of the convention, as the issue of genocide has not been solved for many years due to the ineffective enforcement of such measures, as well as the legal and human rights approaches on the issue of genocide. That's all from us. Thank you.